What's going on, guys, and how are we doing today? So Power of the Elements officially releases in just a couple days here and will be legal for play. We did our guide on taking down Spright, so you know what you're doing. Today we're going to cover Tearlaments. Unlike the Spright video where we showed a handful of combos at the very beginning, this time we're not going to do that because there is a decent bit of RNG involved, and I'll be honest, I am not a expert on the decks. My playlines may not be 100% accurate, and it might just make it kind of harder to follow with the video. Essentially what the deck does is it mills a lot, and I went with showing you guys this list. This is a list that was submitted on Dragon Rider Games for a paid card tournament. Links down below to come get some good competitive testing in. So essentially what we're going to do here today, we're going to talk about the deck and everything that you can do. Tearlaments, there's a handful of variants. I have seen people play pure. From what I've been seeing, branded seems to be very popular for good reason. Punk Tearlaments also pretty popular. The punk one taking advantage of how you can send with Foxy, you can mill off your Chaos Ruler, and then also the Vampire, so you can mill a whole bunch of cards and hit your engine that way. However, despite milling 9 cards and sending one from your hand, sometimes you're unlucky and you don't hit what you need, or it can make it a little awkward. But I mean, at that point, the punk variant is going to be pretty consistent. I think people will go with the branded engine because you can for sure send from your deck to the graveyard what you want when you want, so it's another pretty popular variant that way. We've seen including in some danger cards. Eldritch I've also seen. There's a lot of things, and I think people are going to be pretty creative and testing with it. Which deck is going to be better on release? I personally do think Sprite's going to be a little bit better, but not a whole lot better right off the bat. However, in I believe it's October, or maybe even November, in the fall of this year, Tearlaments is also getting a couple more support cards, and in the long run, this deck is going to be scary. And even on release, guys, this is going to be a tier 1 deck. So let's go over this deck list. We got 3 Rhinoheart, 3 Shaylin, 3 Miru, and the 1 Hofness. 2 Hofness, 1 Beast, 1 Shadal Dragon, Aliber, double Elbaz, then 3 Ash, 3 Crow, 3 Field Spell, 1 Terra, 3 Branded Fusion, 2 Branded Opening, Instant Fusion, Call by the Grave, Foolish Burial, Rhoda. Then you have your Tearlaments Crime and our Meta Noise with triple impermanence extra deck, double Kit Kalos, 1 Kaleida Heart, Dragostapelia, Winda, Eyes Restrict, double Ice Blade, Lubellion, double Albion, Redoer, Dweller, Zeus, and Splight Elf. So talking about what their engine and cards do, Rhinoheart here is one of their normal summons. If this card's normal summoned or special summoned, send a Tearlaments monster from your deck to the graveyard. So that's pretty good. You can basically summon it and then send whatever to start your plays. So right here is obviously going to be one of the choke points, quote unquote. They do have a lot of cards to help kind of play through it though. Then we have the Miru, which is if this card's normal summoned or special summoned, send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So unlike Rhinoheart where you get to pick what you send, this one, again, it's a little RNG based, so it's not quite as good, but it is another normal summon. And it is a level 2, which does come up for things like Spright Elf, and you might be like, oh, well, why would I want Spright Elf? There's some neat little plays, especially follow-up. If you make it and you still have your Spright Elf, you can summon it back and then mill more cards. Otherwise, he was playing Reaper in the side, so that was the main reason for the Spright Elf. However, you can actually kind of use it with your Miru, and I'm sure in a more optimal way to use the Spright Elf, you might have changed up his extra deck a little bit, but it does have a slight utility there. Hofness is our tier 0 card. It's the Handtrap card. It's when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field. Big thing there, guys, on the field. I've seen people chain this to a hand effect. I've seen them chain it to things like a grave effect. It has to be a monster effect on the field in order for them to activate it. And essentially, if they like get it to the grave, because they, for the most part, they have the effect of when this card is sent, other than the Miru, when this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing, or by placing, fusion materials on it from your hand, field, and or graveyard on the bottom of your deck in any order, including this card. You can only use each effect once per turn. So keeping in mind they can use this on your turn and potentially drop a Winda on you your turn. It's not super consistent, but they can do it, and it's happened before. Bringing us to Shaddoll Beast, obviously you get your draw off of it. Then you have your Shaddoll Dragon for a little bit of back row removal. Aliber, and then your Albazes again from the engine with your branded fusion. And double opening, so you don't have to like commit your normal to the Aliber very often, but it is there as an option. Otherwise, remember to like Shaylin, Miru, Hofness, they're all darks, so you could send like your Albaz on one of them off of your branded fusion to go into your Lubellion. Discards for cost, so it will not trigger these or your Shaddolls. However, you can still go into it if you want. You can discard, say, one of your Shaddolls if you have them. Just to, I guess, I don't know. Chain block would be the best reason, since you can still use from hand with these when you do. And also, I know private knowledge, you don't have to verify, you don't have to show things like that. However, like for putting it back into the deck, just to make sure, you do, I guess don't quote me on this, I'm using this ruling from Judge's Lounge, how they ruled Cyberload Fusion, where if you have a set card, like a set Cyber Dragon monster, you can use it for Chimera Tech Rampage. Even if your opponent never saw it, you just have to flip it up to verify that it is, and then you can shuffle it back into your deck. So I will go ahead and assume that if you use from hand, you just have to show it really quick. They don't have to necessarily be able to read it, but just to show that it is a legal material, and then put it onto the bottom of your deck. Again, don't quote me on that, but based on the Judge's Lounge, how they ruled the Cyberload Fusion with a private knowledge card that you do have to verify it, I'm going to assume that in hand these are the same, despite obviously our rules where you don't necessarily have to verify with like Mind Crush and things like that. We got triple Ash, triple Crow, triple Imperm, so 9 hand traps. So they have a little bit of room for some tech cards like that. This one was a little heavier. Some of them play like way more gas and just try and push through what you can and what you have. Your branded opening, that's another card here that can help trigger them, because you discard a card, take a Despia monster from your deck, add it to your hand, or special summon it. So not only does it get you your Aliber, which gets you your branded fusion, it also discards. This one, however, does discard for effect, so branded opening will trigger your Shaddolls and your Tearlament cards. Some other things that you should be paying attention to: the main deck monsters, like when they go to the graveyard and they use their graveyard effect, they have to shuffle themselves back. So if you DD Crow it or stop it somehow, it will resolve without effect, because it must shuffle itself back. Or you can say, if you know they're going for a window, you can obviously hit the beast or the dragon, and then they still have to resolve the card as much as they can, which usually means they're going to go to like a Kit Kalos. Quick little combo, I guess. If they normal summon Rhino Heart, they can go ahead and just dump like any of these, and then the effect of what they dump plus the Rhino Heart to the Kit Kalos, which can usually search out the meta noise, which is going to be like their Book of Moon / follow-up / fusion summon more card. So that's kind of like their one card combo that does not matter on RNG. Obviously, you know, instant fusion, Called by the Grave, little tech cards, consistency cards with Rhoda and Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial sending them to trigger them. Rhoda can search out the Rhino Heart, and instant fusion getting you that Millennium Eyes Restrict to protect your combo. Terraforming, another just consistency card. What other things do they do? We talked about the Winda on turn 0. Kaleido Heart. This card cannot be used as fusion material. This is not just on the field, guys. This is a condition of the card. So even if it's in the graveyard, they cannot use this card as fusion material. keep that in mind. That is a pretty big thing. So if it's in the graveyard and they try to use it for, say, like a Dragostapelia, they cannot do that because it cannot be used as fusion material. You can, if some builds play like the King Beast of the Swamp and poly, or even fusion substitute. Fusion substitute is always considered poly, so between polymerization and fusion substitute, they can only have 3 copies total in the deck since it's always considered it. Also keeping in mind the fusion substitute, when they banish it, they can put back, which will trigger the field spell, which means that they can out Mystic Mine if they are playing that engine, so it's not necessarily an auto win versus the deck, depending on which variant they're playing. Then I guess that's kind of like the main parts of the deck. Let's go ahead now and get on into like the hand trapping and what we can hit that way. So some basic hand trapping, I guess, what you want to do. We have Ash Blossom up here first. You can Ash Blossom like the Rhino Heart, which gets them started. You can Ash Blossom the Shaylin, and remembering Shaylin's main effect during your opponent's main phase, or during your main phase. I need to be able to read better. Sorry guys, it's early. We're going to work soon. Long week. Best time with family, believe it or not, is right now to do videos. But anyway, during your main phase, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, send one monster from your hand to the graveyard. So not only can you trigger your other cards, it's just a free special summon, and then send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So again, it gets things milling and going. But if you go ahead and stop that, it's usually pretty good, because obviously that's going to keep that other card in their hand, so they're going to need another starter, more extenders to continue pushing on through. Otherwise, if they're on the branded variant, branded fusion obviously is always going to be a really good Ash target. DD Crow in this deck, again, hitting that graveyard effect, because it does, obviously I have the Hefness up here as the card, but this can be any of them. It can be the Shaylin, the Rhino Heart, the Hefness, the Miru. Like DD Crowing that card just to prevent that initial fusion, to prevent that initial ball rolling, because then they're gonna already have to rely on RNG, but now they're gonna have to do it again in order to get their plays going. Ghost Ogre overall pretty weak against the deck, but you can hit the field spell, that's about it. Cyframe Gear Gamma, this one's interesting. Usually you're going to use it on, say, the graveyard effect, because like if you use it on the field effect, you're just going to destroy it and trigger it, kind of like why Ghost Ogre is really bad against the deck. However, if they start their play off with like special effect to special Shaylin, or if they start it with normal Rhino Heart and you gamma it, obviously they're just gonna have that one card that's destroyed, so they won't be able to fusion or do anything. So in that case, gamma on the Shaylin or that initial normal summon of like Miru or Rhino Heart actually can be pretty decent. Some other hand traps, Imperm and Veiler, using them again, stopping that initial, that Rhino Heart, that normal summon. Shaylin obviously activates in the hand, so you cannot Imperm or Veiler it. But otherwise, Imperm or Veiler on the Kit Colossus, stop them from searching out the meta noise. Like that's just pretty good when you can 1-for-1 trade and stop them from not only just a way to interact with you, but also gets their follow-up and their board presence going. Ghost Spell and Skullmeister, just like DD Crow, hitting that graveyard effect. However, they're not nearly as good, because they can do a lot of chain blocking depending on if they hit their mills right. So being able to hit them with DD Crow all the time, DD Crow is just so much better than Bell or Meister, but they are options to hit that graveyard effect. Some options of cards that we can use going first, Solemn Strike obviously is always going to be really good. Ice Dragon's Prison 2 is another one, because like Kit Colossus is Aqua, so is Shaylin. You got your Miru, which is also an Aqua, and your Hefness is an Aqua. The Kaleida Heart's kind of weird being a fiend, and then like their off engine cards are going to be different. Kind of unfortunate Rhino Heart's like the one warrior, but with Shaylin, Miru, and Hefness all being Aqua, as well as the Kit Colossus, using the IDP can actually be pretty decent. Hand Trap I did forget to mention. Ghost Reaper, obviously just hit the Kit Colossus, like that's the best target for it. Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, negating those dark effects on field and in graveyard. And it's not necessarily only for this matchup. Gigantic Spright and Spright Blue are darks, so it's not like it's a one matchup card. And let's be honest, there's a lot of dark decks out there, so it might actually be a decent little generic one. DDG, banishing all monsters this turn that are sent to the graveyard, is obviously going to be pretty good as well. DDG, this turn any monster sent to the graveyard is banished. Obviously that's going to be really good too, because they need their cards to be sent to the grave in order to trigger their effects, so banishing them instead is going to be really good. Soul Drain, stopping graveyard effects, obviously going to be very good. D-Barrier, stopping the fusions, very good. Silent Graveyard, another card that I've seen a little bit of talk about, but like the moment I saw Tearlaments, I was like, yep, Silent Graveyard. Card's just really good, turning off graveyard effects. Any deck that, anytime Abyss Dweller is super good in a format, this is a good side card, because it gives decks that can't make Abyss Dweller an option for Abyss Dweller. So I'm going second options. D-Shifter is actually really, really good for this deck, because again, just like DDG, it banishes, so your opponent can't get their graveyard set up, they can't get their plays going, they really can't do anything. Then we have like Lava Golem, and this includes Lava Golem, possibly Sphere Mode. Personally, I like Lava Golem more, because more decks put out 2 cards than 3, and a lot of time, if you don't have to hit 3, like with the Sphere Mode, Lava Golem is plenty. But so this includes like we said, Lava Golem, Sphere Mode, also like Pankratops. They include, which can be a nice trade-off, like special Pankratops, attack over Winda and then pop himself to force another card. Like Pankratops just really good trade-off value. And also like Kaijus. Kaijus are going to be good in this matchup. Dark Ruler No More, Forbidden Droplet, and like by droplet we mean like Droplet, Chalice, outing that Winda. Another card I guess that we actually forgot to put on here, like Ultimate Slayer, especially like send in Tis, and then you can like bounce that Winda from the field, and then in Tis can pop, another card on the field. Just be leery, like, because obviously if you pop like their monsters, they're gonna get effects that way, so you don't want to help them do their plays, but you can hit like back row, you can hit the field spell, so like Ultimate Slayer, really good. Send in Tis, bounce the Winda, pop another card on the field, gonna be pretty good. Force the Dragos, or out the Dragostapelia, I should say, because your Tis is gonna be in the graveyard. They can't put a counter on it, they cannot negate it. So Ultimate Slayer can out Winda Dragostapelia on its own, which obviously that's going to be pretty strong overall. Otherwise, guys, let me know how you liked the video. We're going to work on Punk Therion next. And again, go check out the Spright video for how to take them down. And until next time, guys, take care.